Hello everybody, thank you for being here. I'm so excited to be up here and talking with these amazing folks and hearing their stories. We've been talking all morning and I just can't stop smiling because this is what it's all about, right? And then seeing all the employers that have been nominated and the winners, it's such a good segue into what we're going to be talking about during this lunch hour. So thank you for this opportunity. Real quick, why I'm so excited also, so being from Snohomish County, we also have an initiative where we're supporting employment, and we have currently 7 employees. We started back in 2013, and we're slowly growing our program. So this is the kind of stuff that we're here for and what we're excited about. So we're going to try to get through all kinds of stuff. Different from yesterday, so Cess took those Post-its. If you were here yesterday, she took Post-its with questions. So we've got some, I'll let Jillian and Brian talk about it. But when you ask a question, you will get a certain prize. So we will do questions. We're going to try to hold off to the end, but give you plenty of time. So a little bit different than yesterday. So we're going to go through and have some fun with this. It's great. So the first thing is I want everybody on the panel, everybody's going to introduce who they are, where they come from, if you can, how you got here, which is always fun, and then give a little brief what your program or initiative or what's going on with you guys. So here we go.
Hi, I'm Carrie Sykowski. I'm with Kitsap County. Welcome to Kitsap County. I have worked with the county for about 6 years. It was a little over a year ago that we created our supported employment initiative. We hired our first supported employee a year ago in October, and I'm looking to grow the program in 2020. I got word today that it looks like I have funding for 3 more positions in 2020. Thank you, commissioners. So we are just in the very beginning stages of growing our program. It's been really exciting. It's been a huge learning curve, but I'm excited to learn from the panel and answer your questions and see what I can do to help.
Hi, I'm Ryan Farrow, and I work for CBRE on the Nike account. So I'm a supported employment program manager for the Nike supported employment program. I just started there in January. We launched the program full-fledged in April, and so we're very much in our infancy. But I look forward to sharing some specifics today on this panel. And how I got here is I feel like I have the unique experience of being in the position I am now for sure. I feel very grateful for where I'm at now. And it's because I worked with a lot of organizations in this very room. And I got my start as a part-time job coach with Work Opportunities. That's how I got my start, and I moved down to the Portland area, and I worked for Petroleum Employment Services. This wasn't planned, but and got to do a lot of work with Clark County, and that's where I really started getting my job development worked up and everything. And then I worked for Wise for the past 2.5 years before joining the Nike account. So I feel very good to be doing internal job development now at Nike.
Thanks, Ryan. My name is Brian Collins. I work with Microsoft on the Redmond campus. I'm part of the Real Estate and Facilities group at Microsoft, and we essentially design, build, and maintain all the buildings and services that we have on campus. How I got here, other than my ferry, was sorry, dad joke. I've been with Microsoft in the real estate department for over 20 years, and about 3 years ago, my boss asked me to come in and take accountability for the program that kicked off in 2014. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So I'm, compared to most of you in the room, I'm pretty new to this. I'm learning, but I recognize a number of faces in the audience that are our partners, and I just want to recognize and thank the folks who contribute to the great success we have in the Microsoft Supported Employment Program.
Thanks, Brian. So I'm Jillian McGuire, and I work hand in hand with Brian running the Microsoft Supported Employment Program. Likewise, got here on a ferry. But I look out into this room, and there's so many faces that I recognize. It's fantastic to be talking to so many partners from so many different elements of what we've done. So thrilled to be here and sharing a little story with you. My background is in disability-related civil rights. So I had worked for a civil rights organization in Washington State, which is a statewide organization. disability rights. Washington, there's an equivalent in Oregon, and worked there on civil rights for people with disabilities for over 20 years. And when this opportunity came up to actually implement one of the priority issues that comes up for people with disabilities, when you ask them what kind of civil rights issues should we be working on, they say the top of the pile is employment and access to employment. So when the opportunity came up to actually work on the inside of that and try to make some change, I really couldn't say no. So that's how I got here. And like Ryan, I feel very privileged and really honored to be part of this journey, and that you're all such a huge part of. So thanks.
So we're going to have a video to go over and watch here, which is very fun. It's always great to see success stories, and this is a great little snip of what's going on over at Microsoft.
Austin is prepping his work on a tablet.
Got ready to rock and roll? Let's go. My name is Austin Landon, and I work for Common Reset Team. So we document the missing furniture. 5, 6, 7. We're low on these chairs on this side. Make sure the furniture is good looking and there's no damage.
He is definitely a huge contributor to our team. My name is Heather Durr, and I am the Associate Project Manager over the Common Area Reset team.
The next assignment I have is the focus rooms.
Same floor. He has just a can-do attitude. He's basically leveling up the whole team.
Austin is working with his team supervisor.
3rd floor? Let's go cruise.
He's super proud of his background.
Ohana means family, and nobody should get left behind.
He works with all the people on his team to help them improve their skills, asking them about what are they finding difficult. Is there anything he can do to help them with that?
My job coaches taught me, raise your game, I can rise. I represent for people with disabilities, and I have a disability myself. I tell the governors down in Olympia, why don't we boost up the money for people with special needs who need it the most?
His perfect job in the future would be helping people and really kind of inspiring them.
Once you pass on the Aloha spirit, push, it's everywhere.
Learn more at aka.ms/supported employment.
Austin is prepping his work on a tablet. So good, we played twice. Just a little story about Austin. We did a number of these videos about 18 months ago, just to showcase the work we do at Microsoft, and more importantly, the work the employees are doing, how mainstream it kind of is, at least for us. Since then, Austin has actually joined our program team. So the journey that we kind of went on, thank you. The journey that we went on as we were doing these videos and talking to our support employees, they wanted to do more, they wanted to learn more, they wanted to take on more responsibility. So it felt like because Austin had been to Olympia and had done some advocacy, he'd be a great part of our team. Normally he'd be sitting up here with us telling us his story as well. So we're kind of delighted that we have these little mini stories in the program where people are making progress and moving on and doing more with their career, and for Austin being hopefully a bigger advocate for this. So if you need Austin, we can get him to any of your advocacy meetings.
Great, thank you. So that being said, when we talked about how we wanted to present and talk about everything, we went over the who, what, why, and how. So let's go ahead and jump into the why. We've already kind of discussed that. So, we're preaching to the choir. We definitely get that. But why at all these levels that we have? We have the county, we've got corporate, we've got all these. It's so important to celebrate all the different levels of employment, right? We've got the local employers, we've got the schools. And so if we could go through and just kind of talk about why we continue to do this, different things like Austin's stories, the things that are motivating and moving us forward.
So our why started out because we, as a county in our Human Services Department, we had the Division of Developmental Disabilities, and we had people doing good work there, finding employers in Kitsap County and placing supported employees, but we didn't actually have a supported employee at the county. And it didn't make sense to us. So we're like, wow, why aren't we doing this? So that was kind of our initial why. And it's really important to me when I talk with the employment officials, I point out that we really have a duty to represent all of the citizens of Kitsap County when we look at increasing diversity with county employment. And I will say, hands down, everybody in the county buys into that 100%. The why we're continuing is our one employee has just inspired all of us so much, looking at her growth over the past year, watching her start to engage with people beyond just me. At first I was kind of her person, but watching her grow in her relationships with her team and her coworkers, watching her blossom, take on more work, and just talking with her about what this has done for her personally and in her life, things that I realize I take for granted, and realize they're not things to take for granted when I see the impact it's had on her. So it makes me excited to grow this program and to benefit more of my fellow citizens in the county.
The why of the Nike program and how it started largely was because of all the work that Microsoft and CBRE partnership has done, that they'll talk about more too. But there was a new account launching at Nike, and there was a lot of people from CBRE that had been working on the Microsoft account. And a few of whom had been involved or at least interested in support employment had been spending time with the team. And when the account launched, it's only been going for about 2 years. CBRE kind of embed themselves in their business relationship, and so the people that knew about it when they came down, they pretty quickly started what they call in the corporate world socializing. So you socialize that. Do you socialize that with so and so before you move that forward? Which I mean, it just means getting approval, I think, and getting people on board. So I'm learning new vocabulary. But it was socialized all over the place, and they got people in place to fund a position to be created to create a program. And with the intention of following the really great resources that Microsoft has put out there, talking about the toolkit, we've used a lot of resources from that, and then customize them for our own uses as well. So that's how it started. And then when I started in January, it was kind of coming in and just saying, okay, what do you think we should do? And there were a lot of ideas based on things that were already successful, and then also talking with Nike, they have their own ideas as well. So, but then also just in the why, in terms of the why of why I think I keep doing what I'm doing is working in the field of support employment and going through and supporting people through their process of employment, from when you first are doing discovery of somebody through to helping them maintain their job once you've helped them to secure employment, is that there was a lot of learnings for me that as someone who's a support, I learned that I think the business world can do better. And then there were especially things where people with more significant supports, or maybe that their verbal communication isn't to the point where employers are as comfortable sometimes. And the way that I want to be able to impact that is empowering employers to do some other things that are helping everyone to come forward and put their best skills forward. So what I saw when I was doing direct support is that people were being screened out by algorithms, whether computer or human algorithms, that say, you don't show up the way I'm used to you showing up, so it's pretty easy for the bias to kick in and you're not considered. And so the thing that we prioritize in every job so far we've done is to have a working component that is part of the interview. And that's been really effective because it's empowered the teams that are hiring to make an informed choice about the candidate. And it's about, if you have the skills to do the job, then you should have a really solid shot at being hired. And what I've seen is that that's been a big impact where sometimes there's some people that are brand new, and when they come through, they're hiring people that are just going to verbally communicate the way that they're used to, and that's kind of what their route goes. And then I see these teams start to develop where then there's more candidates, and they're starting to really weight the working interview above all else. And they're making decisions to hire people that have the skills that maybe haven't been given the opportunity in the past because of that. So that's been a huge thing. And we also have eliminated, so far, been able to eliminate phone screenings as part of our process, because that's another thing. So I work with a lot of recruiters so far and helping them understand what support employment is. And it just is informed by what I've, I think, dealt with in the past and the barriers that you experienced that are systemic.
Thanks, Ryan. You call it socializing, we call it encouraging, in some cases, coercing. So, I think if we think about the bigger picture, certainly at Microsoft, we know diversity and inclusion is a big part of what we do in the company. We know it's the right thing to do, and we know it's good for business. The proof is out there. When you hire a diverse workforce, you are more profitable. But I think traditionally, as we've looked at that idea of diversity and inclusion, we might have talked about gender, we might have talked about race, sexual orientation, and so on. I think we're now finally cracking into the inclusion of folks with disabilities. And where the Real Estate and Facilities organization within Microsoft plays a role in that is in the DD&ID world. So we have a number of services that we run across our campus: food services, maintenance, landscaping, reception, mail, etc., etc. So we've been able to leverage that by hiring through our partners like CBRE and several others, individuals that can come in and do the work. And the benefit of that for us, again, the idea it's good for business. I know I'm speaking to the choir, these folks can do the job. We know we're in a low employment rate at the moment. We know about the loyalty of the employees. The case of Austin and many others, they're going on to expand their careers, take on new roles, etc. So, Jimmy, do you want to add to that?
Let me just paint some of the pictures for those of you who might not know much about what the Microsoft program looks like. We have 13 job coaching agencies that are our partners in this program that we use a request for information process to assess all the applications we got from the job coaching agencies. So we have 13 job coaching partners, and that helps us keep the pipeline filled with wonderful candidates looking for jobs. And so that if there's a hiring need that happens on the campus, we've got 13 partners that we can reach out to. On the other side of it, we have 9 vendor companies that are part of our program who are leaning in and have hired individuals with developmental disabilities thanks to the program. So we started, as Brian said, 2013, 2014, and since the program began, 270 positions have been filled by individuals with intellectual disabilities. The program started at the Redmond campus, which is the headquarters of Microsoft globally, but has expanded over the past couple of years to locations across the United States, Canada, Mexico, and then more recently, very excitingly, in Europe, the Middle East, and in Asia. There's been quite a large uptick there as well. So we're very excited about that. So those are just some of the numbers for you. I think that's good enough.
Thank you so much for that. You know what I wanted to recognize about this is, you guys are all leaders, but you're reinventing yourself as leaders, right? With Microsoft and CBRE and the counties, they've been doing all this great work, and now they're reinventing how they're leading in a different way, and truly embracing all the people that use your products or in your community. Why not have them on your staff too? So I just love that whole piece. So now we're going to go into the how. How would you want others? What would you want to know about how you do this? Like, what kind of questions? I know we're going to hear questions at the end, but how do people do this? How do you do it? How does it all come together?
I feel like it's still coming together in the county. So my background is not in supported employment or in working with this community. My background is actually in human resources. And we launched the program out of the Human Resources Department, which seemed to make sense for the county because I support all of the departments and I can go in and talk with my employee officials about the program. And when they're telling me where they need help and they think they might need a new full-time person over here, I can be the person to go, or we could do a supported employment, and talk with them about what that means. And so I really have had a learning curve because I needed to learn what supported employment even was. And I thought it sounded really cool and I wanted to take it on. But I had to really learn. King County graciously hosted, they let me come over and kind of like follow them around one day. So I kind of learned more about the program. I did go in and look at the Microsoft toolkit. And so I was pulling from everything that I could. Kelly O'Neill, who is employed by the county, has educated me. I've worked with WISE. They've come and helped me do some job development. So for me, it was a learning curve, and now I feel like I'm at a point where I have a better understanding and I'm ready to launch the program and expand it throughout the county. But for us at the county, it makes sense to house it in human resources again because of those contacts that we have with the departments. And we can partner with them to grow that program. We can help them get the funding or house the funding in human resources and kind of parcel it out to the departments as we know what the need is. And totally lost my train of thought. What was the question? How? Well, we're still doing the how. And so we're going out, we're doing the job development. We needed to partner with the unions. So public sector, of course, we have a lot of bargaining units within the county. And so that was another thing where I kind of probably jumped the gun a little bit, and I just started doing job development, and then I started getting questions from the union of, what are you doing? And so kind of needed to take a step back, and so that was one thing I learned from. And if you are public sector, if you're dealing with unions at all, I would say make sure that you're getting ahead of that in a better way than I did, and approaching your unions ahead of time and partnering with them ahead of time instead of kind of doing it after the fact, because I did have to put a few things on hold while we went back and revisited that with the union and came to some agreement about if we're going to be carving work out of the bargaining unit, what does that look like? And how are we going to partner with the union to do that? And I will say the unions have been fully supportive of it, but it was part of the process that I missed. And so if I were to do that all over again, I would do that first instead of getting everybody all excited about this job and then the job's on hold because now we need to bargain with the union what the impacts of that look like. So that's probably my biggest learning curve, as well as just learning what does this look like, what is supported employment, and how are we going to benefit from this at the county.
It's kind of proceed till apprehended. Yeah. When most of it works out. But I think how that I'm learning about, especially because there's been a lot of work done on the Nike campus prior to me arriving, and there's all these, and I think I've learned this, is that whether it's a smaller, because there's a variety of sizes that we're talking about on stage here, is that regardless of the size of the employer, you're going to be looking for your embedded champions that are in that organization. Lucky enough that when you have at the Nike campus 18,000 people to choose from, not even as big as Microsoft, not nearly, but there are a lot of champions, and there is a formalized department that is diversity and inclusion. So when thinking about, and this isn't always so helpful to think about, but on the side of the larger corporation, it's important to think about that there are people embedded there that are champions for their own reasons. They might have that as part of their job. They might be in a position where they're actually the embedded job developer, or it's somebody who has a connection to disability in some way, shape, or form, which is pretty much everyone, right? So when we've been developing this program, the socializing that goes on with the different networks on campus have been really helpful in us moving things forward and opening up new doors. So under the diversity and inclusion umbrella in Nike, there's also a bunch of networks that are focused on their employee resource groups. And one of them is the Ability Network. And it's it's a volunteer basis, but it's a group of employees that are all interested in moving forward the rights of people with disabilities in some shape or way or form. And they have different pillars, and they do have like communities. They do host events on campus, and special events come to Nike. It's a pretty good fit to have that happen. But then also there's people that are really focused on the career pillar, and their responsibility that they give themselves is to find more employment opportunities to break into. Luckily, being in CBRE, I've learned that we've had to deal with less of the bureaucracy of Nike, honestly. So we've been able to actually kind of proceed in certain ways where we wouldn't have been able to otherwise. And then we have the support of those employee resource groups, and so we're starting to leverage them to say, well, who do you know you can introduce us to? So creating warm leads is a big part of the how, in whatever size of business, I'd say.
Thanks, Ryan. I think you hit the nail on the head. Having that sponsorship is key, whoever that is, and obviously trying to get that person of influence within the organization. But number two, I think it's about storytelling. A lot of people don't understand what supported employment is, and having that simple story to explain what we're doing, why we're doing it, what it is, what's the role of the coach. And I think if you guys as coaches, could take away one thing, is to be able to simplify your role in this process. And a lot of our folks kind of get confused. So I'm paying for the person, I got to pay for a coach as well. No, that doesn't seem like a good deal. no, I'm assuming we all know how the system works, so your costs are covered elsewhere. But also, in practical sense, the role of the coach. How do you liaise with maybe supervisor or manager in the role? What's your role with the family as well as the employee as well? There's a lot of uncertainty for people who don't know what they don't know. There's the sales pitch as well. Again, somebody with a disability coming in, how am I going to manage them? One of the other videos that we created was with Philip Thielen, who was with us since that. He was working in one of our cafes, and when we were trying to get up and running actually in Dublin, I went to see our cafe manager in Dublin, and part of my other role is change management, so I usually work with curmudgeon software engineers who don't like change, and when you approach them, they're just kind of like that about type. So I saw the look in the cafe manager's eyes in Dublin. I went, okay, she's really worried about this thing. So we played the video very similar to Austin's, and I could see during the video the shoulders going down. She was, oh, I got it. Yeah, okay. So we're just bringing in somebody else to do some more work. Exactly. And having those tales is super useful.
Brian's hitting all the highlights. So I think I just wanted to acknowledge the importance of the job coaches in this process. I take my hat off every day to the work that the job coaches do. At Microsoft, we've flipped the model on its head just a little bit. Job coaches don't come in and do job development on the Microsoft campus. That's partly my role. I talk to our companies that are part of the program, and if they say, oh, we have a need over here and we think this would be great for a supported employee, then we talk about it, we help them define the role, and then I just announce it to all of our partner agencies. So that the job coaches, the way that we look at it is the job coaches get to focus on the part that is truly a true unique skill the job coaches have, which is assisting the person in the whole process of learning their job and learning the culture of the employer that just hired them, and really becoming experts at their job. So we sort of free up, the way we look at it is we free up coaching time for people to focus once the person's been hired. So that's a little different, and I think for some job coaches who are new, it's a bit hard to sort of get your head around, but it's worked really well. So as far as that's sort of one of our lessons, is this has worked well as a way to modify the process. I'm getting a little thumbs up back there. So so that's one of our lessons learned, is that this, and that's the way it's working at Nike as well, where job development happens sort of behind the scenes, and then the jobs are announced, and the coaches bring forward candidates for the jobs.
I want to add, that's a unique situation, and I know that coming from job developers, sometimes it can be, it's a challenge that we do have, though, is that making sure that we're communicating what the job is and giving an opportunity for coaches to have more exposure. And one of the ways we figured out recently is that we were allowed, it's hard to take video and pictures because there's a keep it tight thing at Nike, which is it's very high security, they want things being out, but we've been able to get creative with just shooting a video and saying, like, one of the tasks is going to be folding these towels in the laundry facility, for instance, and we're going to get a video of that, send it to the coaches, so then when everybody showed up, everybody had already practiced and everybody had it already down, which is something that we're paying attention, we can't do all the time. So I also want to echo that we couldn't do without our time employment agencies we work with too. Emmanuel, what you're here today, so I just want to keep communicating better to them. So yeah.
And at the county, we use a similar model where I'm going out and doing the job development with the departments, and then we create the posting and push it out to the job coaching agencies in the county. And we also had to make some modifications to our recruitment process. Being public sector, of course, it's normally very regimented and very spelled out how we recruit. So that was another how, and another learning thing was how do we modify this whole process to make it more accessible. And so we do some specific things where we target the job coaching agencies. It does not go out on our public-facing website. It goes specifically just to those agencies. So those are the only applicants we receive for our supported employment. And then we did things different, like we mailed out the interview questions ahead of time instead of springing the interview questions at the time of the interview. We developed some real-life we knew we wanted somebody to come in and scan and make some collated copies, things like that. So we developed some testing that we were going to have them do as part of the interview process, but we let them know that ahead of time also so that they can practice ahead of time. So everybody came in with their job coaches fully prepared for the interview, fully prepared to perform and show us what their capabilities were, and it went very smoothly. It was very eye-opening for my hiring managers that were on the panel. There was a lot of excitement. They wanted to embrace the program, but there was some hesitancy. They weren't sure what this was going to look like, and it was by the end of it, everybody was all smiles and so excited, and how can we hire everybody that we interviewed today? So just making those modifications in our process, I think, really helped with getting this going, getting the excitement going throughout the hiring managers.
Well, thank you. So we've gone over who, what, why, and how, and when we got together to go over how we wanted to structure this, and what about when? Well, when is now. And so now, with we have about 9 minutes left, 10 if we can squeeze it out, to take questions.
Hi, I was curious about the county appointment in Kitsap. Did the elected officials give the department managers marching orders to participate in this, or how would we encourage? I work for Spokane County, we're having issues there.
It was actually created by resolution. At the end of 2017, the commissioners passed a resolution creating the supported employment program and kind of defining what it meant, what that program was going to look like, how it would be funded, the benefits that the supported employees would receive, and kind of some guidelines in there for how often we would be reporting back to the board on how successful the program has been. Be happy to supply you with a copy of that resolution if you. Okay, yeah, just give me your information.
Hi there. First off, I want to thank you guys for kind of being the front line in what is nothing less than a civil rights movement. So thank you so much for that. But is there a specific placement for any of you, a specific employee that you brought on that you absolutely enjoy telling the story of? I would love to hear that.
We've got lots, like genuinely, we have lots. There was one young lady that was of Korean descent. She was a Washingtonian and coming in from the Far East. It was deemed, you're out of luck, you'll never do anything. Very shy young lady, and 3 job attempts to come in and interview with Compass, our catering company on site. She had anxiety attacks, never made the interview, finally made the interview and did a wonderful job partnering with her coach. And on the first day of work, her family traveled over from South Korea because she was working in Microsoft. And just that kind of social acceptance of somebody who maybe did think. She's gone on within that Compass organization to do a number of different tasks. They've kind of they've opened it up to her to make suggestions, and she's improved certain elements of our productivity on the food services that we do, which is actually saving money, which is kind of cool because she's doing that firsthand and she has the autonomy. But there's 270 great stories, but that's just another one. And just while we're waiting for the next maybe hand to go up, one of the things that we get asked by peer companies, Microsoft, you've got so many people, like we'll never get to that amount. We would always say, don't worry about that. Hire the first person. Go get one person, put them in role, get people used to what supported employment is, learn from that, learn the system, and then you know what, then go hire the second person. And guess what, now you've increased your supported employment by 100%. It's a great metric.
So I have a written question that I'm going to answer because it's about CBRE. So CBRE is a global or international corporate real estate company that has had a really long, trusted relationship with Microsoft. And CBRE is facing many of the vendors to Microsoft that are part of this program. And CBRE is one of the vendors who has hired supported employees in this program. And CBRE is also has the Nike account. So what CBRE does is corporate real estate, lease transactions, facilities management. So there's a lot of people that work on the Microsoft campus that actually work for CBRE, which is where Ryan and I work. Oh, right, sorry, yes. So I wanted to just acknowledge, I know a lot of people in this room would have known Dave Bryant. Yeah, thank you. So Dave was my predecessor. He is the person who was there at the start of the Microsoft Supported Employment Program, and he worked for many years as a job coach, probably with some of your organizations. Really nicest guy in the world. I got to work with him very, very briefly before he passed away. I was on board part-time helping with the program, and then got to sort of align with David for about a month before he passed away. And it was a huge loss to the program, but a great legacy for him that he established a program that's up on all of its legs and moving forward and growing substantially at this point. So shout out to Dave and all of you who supported him through the years.
What can a self-advocate do? What steps can a self-advocate take to be a leader, and how would they get the support that they need to find an advocacy group?
Well, one of the things that has been really helpful in the program is I think that we don't want to operate in this kind of veil of secrecy, and that when I'm the only person running the program, it's hard to not feel like that because I'm making decisions with my team. And so one of the things that's been really helpful in our program is that we have a group of advisory members from a variety of areas, and the Oregon Self-Advocacy Coalition, Gabby is here, and Gabby has been instrumental in forming our program, ensuring that the decisions that are made from a programmatic standpoint don't have some kind of consequence that we don't see at a systemic level or on an individual level as well. What we're finding too is that depending on the area that you're in, there's at least more movement on the Nike side too, to have more informed approaches to universal design, the way that people access their campus and their products. So I'd love to connect afterwards too to talk about that, because that's currently what they've asked me to do, is to be talking to more people about informing not only the employment, but their lived spaces, their workspaces, and also product design as well. That's one.
That ties into a question that we got. How does your organization include people with disabilities in all phases of decision making and planning, as opposed to including people after the key decisions have been made? Does anybody want to add to that?
I guess I can take it from maybe a corporate real estate angle, and what I've been learning in this community. You've got to have diversity, you've got to have representation out there, but you've got to have folks who are diverse with a seat and, more importantly, a voice at the table. There can't be token voices or token seats, which is why, and again, I'm sure everybody heard this term, nothing about us without us. So we can't, certainly in my role, I can't try to pretend to be something I'm not. But what we do on the facility side, and to a certain extent the support employment side, we go out and we take the feedback that we're getting, and we work with a number of consultants and internal leaders to help us take maybe some of the personal biases away from suggestions that we get. I don't like the way you put that entry point in. I don't. Your signage should change to this or that, or can we do more specialty restrooms and so on. So we'll take that feedback and we'll work with our consultant, with our leaders to prioritize and kind of take out the personal perspectives and then go back and respond. But we're always listening. Certainly in Microsoft, there are a number of employee resource groups across the disability category, some of them very specialized and a little bit broad. And we will partner with them to at least listen to the suggestions, and we can kind of filter and prioritize. Sometimes it's just, yeah, that makes sense, I should go do it. I think the other thing is just having that independent consultant that can just kind of squeeze out some of the personal biases. That helps.
We have time for 2 more questions. Just for Microsoft, do you guys have entry-level software development?
Yeah, we have at Microsoft. There is an autism at work program, for example. If you obviously we don't Google in Microsoft, we Bing. So if you Bing the autism at work in Microsoft, it'll bring you to a web page, and it'll tell you about some of those entry positions that we have there. There are a number of positions as well beyond kind of software technicians and software developers, hardware developers that we have. But I think that's a really good place to start.
I'm sure there's many people in this room, including myself, that have talked to different agencies, and again, we come up with the whole union thing, and even the school districts and some of cities or places like that. Coming from the HR standpoint, maybe you can answer this. A lot of times we just kind of hear, well, we just don't even know how to talk to the union about this, or how do we get started? Do you have like documents that you can share? I know we have to like write something like the MOE or something.
An MOU, yeah, Memorandum of Understanding. Absolutely, I'd be happy to share that. I actually reached out to the City of Seattle and got information from her as well, because her, the program at City of Seattle is just so robust. And so, yeah, why reinvent the wheel? I'd be happy, if you want to give me your information afterwards, I'd be happy to share with you what we've done with our unions.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. Carrie, Ryan, Brian, and Jillian, who has her socks, which is so wonderful. This has been great. Thank you again. I want to make sure you guys have time to do what you need to do before the last session. So we will be lingering around, right? If there's any questions for the panel, they'll still be up here. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.